one of my big disappointments during this quarantine is not that many people are capitalizing on it to change their behavior. You know, many years ago when I moved out of my parents' home to go pursue my PhD, I remember thinking that because I was nervous about moving out. I had never spent more than a week without my family at this point in my lifetime. And I remember just treating it like a reality TV show because I used to love to watch Survivor, and I actually applied to get on the show at one point. Didn't get very far with it, so I was okay with that concept. And so I remember when I moved out of my family's home to just treat it like a game of Survivor with 6.5 billion contestants at the time, and that's how I got through it. And I remember because it's a reality TV show and people sacrifice a lot of things to go on Survivor, maybe it's time for me to sacrifice some things that I could do without, especially a number of addictions that I had. I was already eating pretty healthy at that time, but I took it on steroids when I moved out of my family's home, just because I was already on Survivor. You know, you might as well take it as a challenge. And this quarantine has been another experience of that. So at the beginning of the quarantine, because we're thinking about Survivor, when I was moving out to pursue my PhD, I might have had group challenges. And now that we're in quarantine, this is an individual challenge. And my big disappointment was when I go out to the grocery store and seeing how people were buying cigarettes and alcohol. And my first week of the quarantine, I went to QFC, a grocery store here in the Seattle area, and the beer aisle was a mess. You know, not only did people want to drink it, but they wanted to make a mess when they went to get the beer. Because the world is ending, you know, and I don't know if there was a fight in the beer aisle. I didn't see it, but the whole beer aisle was a mess. Things were out of place. There were broken bottles. And then there was a huge mountain of Corona beer, which nobody wanted. And my heart sank because I was just thinking, if I were an alcoholic, this is the perfect time for me to do something about it. I mean, maybe not a serious alcoholic where you might have withdrawal and die from it just from quitting. But if I had a problem drinking, right, that would be a good time to address it. I do have some problems in my life. I used to eat very subconsciously. I've been trying to be more mindful about my eating. Actually, COVID-19 has been very helpful for that because I have to wash my hands before eating. And sometimes in the process of washing my hands, I realized, hey, I didn't really need to eat so badly. You know, I just needed a break from my computer, and the 20 seconds it took to wash my hands was a nice break in its own right, and there's no need to eat. And washing my hands has kind of become the new taking a break instead of the eating that I used to do subconsciously. But 10 years ago when I was working on my PhD, we ended up in quarantine as well. Not because of a disease, but because of severe weather. Believe it or not, I used to live out of my office. I didn't have an apartment at this time. And one afternoon it started storming like crazy. This was in January of 2011. I'll let you look up the weather that month. But one afternoon it stormed like crazy, and it didn't stop snowing and ice for several days. And nobody left the office overnight. And for me, it didn't seem to impact me that much because I was already living there. But for a lot of people, it was their first time spending a night in the office. And I was lucky because I had a lot of supplies on hand because I wanted to be a little bit low profile living in the office. I knew if I made a run to the grocery store too often, it would blow my cover. And so I had closets full of food. But after a few days, everybody was bored, hungry. They were missing out on events, and we had empty classrooms because of people who weren't already locked in the office couldn't come. And do you know the only reason people left that building? It was to go smoke, or to go get cigarettes if they ran out. I remember getting nervous that if this goes on any longer, people are just going to smoke inside the building, and I don't like being exposed to cigarettes. So luckily, it didn't go on that long. But people had all sorts of wants and needs, and then cigarettes were the first thing that caused people to break the quarantine. That I just wish I had made a movie of that. It would be a good public service announcement to kids about don't start smoking. It's really addictive. You know, there are a million reasons people wanted to get out of that building, and cigarettes were the one driving factor. And maybe this crisis in 2020, it will be a turning point that you realize, oh my God, that I thought I was a social smoker or a social drinker until I realized that I put my life in danger just to go get cigarettes and alcohol or food or sex or whatever it is, right? A little bit worried about the sex because there are people who are isolated from sex at the moment. When we do get back, I'm a little bit worried that it's going to come back with a vengeance. When I hate it when I meet somebody on a date and all they think about is sex, and I have my run-ins with that, and I guess we'll have to see how that turns out after the quarantine. Thanks for watching.